Hunting is just entertainment today, but was it the same in the past? If you think about this, congratulations, you have broken through the common mindset of projecting the present onto the past. We're all rulers who were passionate about hunting, merely addicted, irresponsible, and neglectful of their duties. In fact, hunting in the past was first and foremost an economic matter, then a political matter, and only lastly a form of entertainment and enjoyment. Across the world, there was once a sport whose fame stretched from Ireland to Khitan, China, known and recognized by all. From King Arthur of British mythology to King Taejong of Joseon, Korea, nearly every ruler across Eurasia was once obsessed with it. Even at the cost of accidents, including losing their own lives, they were willing to risk everything for it. Yes, that sport was hunting. Don't imagine that hunting is something far removed from modern everyday life. We actually have many similar examples around us. If you know the community of fishing enthusiasts, then you already understand how deeply one can fall in love with fishing. Losing sleep, skipping meals, neglecting family, even risking life. None of these matters to devoted anglers. Some laugh at their obsession, but I see the weight of history in those who never return home empty-headed. Countless kings, nobles, and generals in the past were all captivated by the allure of hunting. Why fear for one's life when hunting? What use is life if one cannot hunt? In the 9th century, King Carloman II of West Francia, the Vikings' most feared enemy, died in a hunting accident. 800 years later, Carloman's future successor, King Louis XIII of France, persisted in hunting repeatedly until his death. In 1100, King William II of England was accidentally killed by one of his own men while hunting. In 1698, King Christian V of Denmark was kicked by a deer during a hunt, fell gravely ill, and eventually died. Leaders of Central and Eastern Europe also enjoyed hunting. Nazi Germany established the German Hunting Society, led by the hunting enthusiast Hermann Göring. Tito and Stalin were both famous hunters. Brezhnev's first hobby was collecting medals, his second was hunting rifles. It's fair to say that devoted anglers today are just like past rulers, the successors of the hunting tradition from the past. Even if it's simpler and scaled down now, the fighting spirit remains the same. However, was hunting so popular among the rulers simply because it was fun? Were all rulers who were passionate about hunting merely addicted, irresponsible, and neglectful of their duties? Hunting is just entertainment today, but was it the same in the past? If you think about this, congratulations, you have broken through the common mindset of projecting the present onto the past. In fact, hunting in the past was first and foremost an economic matter, then a political matter, and only lastly a form of entertainment and enjoyment. In this video, we will examine the reasons behind the obsession with hunting among the rulers of the past. In many people's minds, once humans completed the agricultural revolution and began cultivating crops and domesticating animals, they completely broke away from the hunter-gatherer lifestyle, and hunting and fishing suddenly became optional leisure activities. In fact, humans still needed to keep hunting to obtain enough food, and hunting was the only way to acquire many scarce resources. The natural environment of the pre-modern world was vastly different from that of today. Over the past 2 centuries, humans have destroyed 2/3 of the world's wetlands and 1/4 of the world's forests through engineering technology, while the global population has grown from 1.1 billion to 7 billion, with the population shifting from being predominantly rural to predominantly urban. In the past, whether rulers or peasants, everyone lived alongside nature and wild beasts. The natural environment was humanity's greatest treasure, but also its greatest threat to survival. Therefore, material scarcity was absolute in the past, and in every region and society, regardless of their level of agricultural development, hunting was never completely abandoned. The lower classes relied on hunting to secure enough food to survive, while the upper and middle nobility practiced hunting to supplement their protein intake and gather trade goods. A very small number of exceptionally powerful rulers could disregard the economic significance of hunting. We will discuss them later. Among the so-called traditional ruling classes, monarchs and high nobles comprised only a tiny fraction, and the vast majority remained merely local lords living rather precarious lives. For the Yangban nobles of the Joseon dynasty in Korea, who generally couldn't even afford tea, hunting was the most reliable source of meat. Medieval European nobles were in a similar situation. To eat more meat, they had to go hunt it themselves. In regions and eras with relatively low productivity, even a monarch of a state had to rely on hunting to supplement the meat supply. In early medieval Europe, the Frankish monarchs who stood at the top of their loose feudal confederation frequently toured and hunted across their lands simply to feed their own courts. The same was true in ancient Prechin China, where the kings of the Shang dynasty, the sons of heaven of the Zhou dynasty, and the kings and lords of various Chinese states in later periods all frequently went hunting to gather resources. Among the tens of thousands of oracle bones unearthed at the ruins of Yin, the main capital of the Shang dynasty, about 10% of the bone divinations are related to hunting. Almost all records of the ancient Yunmeng March during the spring and autumn and Warring States periods relate to the Chu state rulers' hunting expeditions there. It is said that King Zhuang of Chu, one of the 5 hegemons of the spring and autumn period, neglected state affairs for the sake of tours and hunting, and one way his beloved consort Lady Fan tried to admonish him was by refusing to eat meat to demonstrate her resolve, another thought-provoking detail. However, to suggest that those rulers hunted merely for large cuts of meat would be far too crude an explanation, and would do nothing to explain why hunting endured so widely across the world. In fact, hunting brought not only protein but also gold. Hunting was a significant source of luxury goods in the past. For rulers who were financially strained yet eager to indulge, the luxury goods trade was the most flexible means of increasing their wealth and income. Through hunting, nobles could obtain trophies such as beast hides, horns, feathers, pearls, live animals, and so on, all of which could fetch high prices in long-distance trade. Particularly in South and Southeast Asia, the elephant trade was as important as the warship trade is today. And since elephants were difficult to breed in captivity, they had to be obtained through periodic releases and hunting. Therefore, for lords and kings, hunting meant considerable income, or at the very least a way to further enrich the royal treasury. Moreover, in the past, it was common to despise or even to prohibit the nobles from engaging in manual labor. For such people, hunting was the only relatively respectable productive activity, fun, not shameful, and an income source without having to risk their lives on the battlefield. In addition, helping peasants eliminate wild boar, wolves, tigers, and other ferocious beasts, as well as the occasional fictitious Yao Guai, was also one of the duties of lords and officials. Many folk tales originated in this way from the rulers' hunting experiences. For example, many stories in 1001 Nights recount the hunting adventures of Caliph Harun al-Rashid of the Abbasid dynasty. In Greek mythology, there is a famous tale called the Caledonian Boar Hunt. Some versions of stories about Japanese yin-yang masters say that Emperor Toba encountered the fox spirit Tamamo no Mae during a hunt. If it weren't for the rulers and bureaucrats hunting continuously for almost 1,000 years, there would be no famous line from the poem by Su Shi, the great poet of the Northern Song dynasty of China in Hunting in Mizhou, written during his tenure as the governor of Mizhou. To repay the whole city's devotion in accompanying the governor on the hunt, I will personally shoot the tiger, just like Sun Chuan, the ruler of the Eastern Wu dynasty during the Three Kingdoms period. Over 1,000 years of hunting by monarchs and nobles, the hunter's lodge built by King Louis VII of France gradually transformed into the magnificent palace of Fontainebleau, and the all-powerful son King Louis XIV further expanded it into the luxurious Palace of Versailles. In eras and regions with advanced productivity and at the top of the social hierarchy, the economic significance of hunting was no longer apparent. The resources that kings and emperors obtained from their prey were even less valuable than the money they spent maintaining their hunting grounds and palaces. So, setting aside its economic significance, why did hunting remain important to past rulers? The answer lies in the fact that for top rulers, hunting was essentially a political ritual. In the 2nd century BC, Dongfeng Shuo, a renowned minister of the Western Han Empire of China, petitioned Emperor Wu of Han to abolish the Shanglin Park. The Shanglin Hunting Park was the Han dynasty's royal hunting ground, covering an area of 340 square kilometers, roughly 10 times the size of the capital Chang'an at the time, and 1/10 the size of the present-day Horchin district of Tongliao, a city in northeast China within the Inner Mongolia region. According to the Book of Han, Dongfang Shuo's reasoning was that the hunting grounds take away fertile land from the people, depleting the country's resources and hindering agriculture, abandoning success for failure. In short, the hunting grounds were harming the state finance. Emperor Wu of Han ignored Dongfeng Shuo's advice, but after his reign, the Western Han Empire, experiencing a financial crisis, gradually converted some hunting ground land into farmland. The shrinking of the Han dynasty's hunting grounds demonstrates that royal hunting was not economical, but Emperor Wu's determination to maintain them was not merely driven by extravagant indulgence. Across the world, royal hunting grounds were symbols of a ruler's dignity throughout history. Rulers in China, Japan, Persia, the Eastern Roman Empire, including smaller countries like Armenia, all had their own exclusive hunting grounds. Represented by Hyde Park, the 8 royal parks of London were all once hunting grounds for the British monarchs. From an economic perspective, hunting grounds were the ruler's exclusive economic zones. However, many of these economic zones were not economically viable, yet rulers preferred to maintain their hunting functions even at a loss. The reason for this can only be found on a political level. In earlier societies, the rulers' hunting activities were closely intertwined with their tours and military activities, and this tripartite relationship determined the political significance of hunting grounds. First, let's discuss tours. Many people today would consider the tours of past rulers and modern tourism as the same thing. In fact, tours were important political activities, a crucial means for past rulers to demonstrate and enhance their authority. For example, after the establishment of the Qin Empire, the first unified Chinese empire in history, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of Imperial China, began long-term tours of the former territories of the Six States, enduring harsh weather and assassination plots, and ultimately dying a sudden death on the road. Qin Shi Huang was certainly no fool. He knew the dangers of tours. But in order to consolidate the empire's rule, he had no choice. Similarly, during the Qing Empire, the last unified Chinese empire of Imperial China, one of the purposes of the Qianlong Emperor's well-known tours to southern China was to increase the emperor's control over the officials and gentry of the Jiangnan region. Both the Kangxi Emperor and his grandson, the Qianlong Emperor, frequently embarked on tours, with the Kangxi Emperor's tours aimed at establishing the dynasty's rule and the Qianlong Emperor's at consolidating it. Well into the 19th century, the dawn of the modern world, tours remained an important means for rulers to consolidate their power. Despite the high risks of frequent assassinations in the 19th century, in order to govern their vast empire, Russian Tsars still had to undertake long-term tours, engaging with provincial nobles and bureaucrats to prevent the collapse of the imperial political machine. In the first decade of the Meiji Restoration in Japan, Emperor Meiji frequently toured various prefectures to calm peasants and samurai who were in constant revolt. After the Satsuma Rebellion ended in 1877 and central authority was consolidated, Emperor Meiji shut himself away at his residence in Tokyo, grew to nearly 220 pounds in his later years, and ultimately died of uremia caused by diabetes. Queen Victoria of the United Kingdom never set foot on Indian soil, but many of her sons and grandsons toured India, as the rise of Indian nationalism in the 20th century forced the British colonizers to use such means to consolidate their authority. Throughout history, tours and hunting activities often overlapped. Besides regimes with nomadic backgrounds such as Persia and the Liao dynasty of China, the early Holy Roman emperors and the Grand Princes of Kiev and Rus also frequently engaged in tours and hunts. Beyond royal tours, hunting often served as military exercises, and at times even as actual warfare. Now that we have 800,000 naval troops ready, we are preparing to meet with the general for a hunt in Wu. This is recorded as the message Cao Cao of Wei sent to his rival Sun Chuan of Wu before the Battle of Red Cliffs during the Three Kingdoms period. The phrase, meet for a hunt, vividly conveys the metaphorical link between hunting and warfare. Large-scale hunts conducted by past rulers were essentially small to medium-scale military exercises. They required logistical support for tens of thousands of people, the organization of mass hunts using formations and messengers, and the coordination of multiple troop types. Therefore, royal hunting grounds often also served as military encampments and training grounds, and many expeditions were conducted in the name of hunting. In Indian history, the most famous example of the trinity of tours, hunting, and military expeditions is the great Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb's expedition to Kashmir in 1665. At that time, Aurangzeb led hundreds of thousands of men to inspect Kashmir in the name of hunting, though his true purpose was to subdue the local rebellious rulers. In 1616, at the age of 74, Tokugawa Ieyasu, the founder of Japan's Edo shogunate, led tens of thousands of troops on a hunt aimed at intimidating the local daimyo lords of the Kanto region, led by Date Masamune. Ieyasu himself ultimately died on the way during a hunt. The rulers of the Ming Empire of China inherited the martial traditions of the Liao, Jin, and Yuan dynasties. After the Yongle Emperor moved the capital to Beijing, he built the large hunting park, Nanhai Zoo, on the foundation of the previous dynasties, covering an area 3 times the size of the city of Beijing at the time. Following the crisis of the Tumu fortress and facing the threat of the Oirat Mongols, the Ming court stationed thousands of infantry, cavalry, and artillery at Nanhai Zoo to conduct military exercises, making the necessary preparations for the later victory in the defense of Beijing. After the Ming-Qing transition, the Qing dynasty, while taking over Nanhai Zoo, also built the 3 hills and 5 gardens in the western suburbs of Beijing and the Mulan Paddock in Chengde, Hebei province, expanding the scale of hunting, or rather military exercises. Every autumn, the Qing emperors would conduct joint military exercises with the Mongol noble lords at the Mulan Paddock. While these were meant to court and intimidate the Mongols, the foreign outsiders also had to witness the military might of the Celestial Empire. For example, Giuseppe Castiglione, the court painter who painted for the Qianlong Emperor. Hunting, a combination of both domestic affairs and foreign diplomacy, serving both as imperial tours and military expeditions, was also a common practice in another Asian empire contemporary with Qing China. The governors-general of British India frequently convened the rulers of various princely states for collective tiger hunts, demonstrating Britain's legitimacy as the ruler of India, a custom that later spread to British Malaya. Large-scale royal hunts, integrating tours, hunting, and military, were the clearest embodiment of the political significance of hunting in history, and the ultimate reason why past rulers were so passionate about hunting. At its core, hunting was a game in service of power. As royal hunting reached its peak in the 19th century, it also marked the prelude to its impending downfall. After the Industrial Revolution, new technologies transformed the basic logic of governance and warfare, and as a byproduct of the politics of the past, royal hunting was about to come to its end. Dating back to the distant era of the Shijing in ancient pre-Qin China, hunting flourished among rulers across Eurasia for millennia, yet vanished in just a few decades. The Industrial Revolution shattered the very foundations that had sustained hunting, and with the dramatic growth of productive capacity, people no longer rely on hunting to obtain necessities. With the rise of environmentalism, obtaining luxury goods through hunting is regarded as immoral, and animals should not only not to be hunted and killed but should also be protected. Meanwhile, advanced transportation and communication networks greatly reduced the need for royal tours, as speeches and ceremonies broadcast over radio and television became new ways of displaying power. Furthermore, for armies equipped with modern technology, there is no longer any need to incorporate ancient practices like hunting into their military exercises. In the first half of the 19th century in Europe, hunting and horse riding gradually became niche sports for a minority of nobles. Then, in the second half of the 19th century, the massive fire set by the Anglo-French troops during the Second Opium War destroyed the old summer palace in Beijing, the most magnificent imperial hunting park of East Asia. Later, the oldest royal hunts of West Asia also vanished into the sands of time. In the early 20th century, the Qajar dynasty of Iran abolished royal hunting, marking the abandonment of institutionalized hunting in the last major state in Eurasia. Ancient Persia was the key hub for the spread of royal hunting activities, and the tradition then returned to dust and faded into history. In today's Beijing, if you head northwest from Haidian Huangzhuang subway station, you would be passing through what was once entirely the site of the Qing Dynasty Imperial Gardens. The Changchuanyuan residential community outside Peking University's West Gate was once one of the Qing Emperor's earliest hunting grounds in the western hills of Beijing. Today, however, it is almost impossible to find any trace of wildlife in the area. Fortunately, place names retain memory, and names like Woqiying Station and Guajia Tuan Community are legacies of the Qing Army's presence and military exercises in the Western Hills hunting grounds. Becoming farmland residential areas and public parks has been the fate of most former royal hunting grounds around the world. It's been just over a century since the age of hunting ended, yet it has become strangely unfamiliar in the eyes of modern people, even though so many of its remnants and legacies still surround us. We want to show you the true world of the past. Thank you for watching.